Welcome back to Rare US Coins 1. Today we are diving into one of the most surprising coins hiding in plain sight, the Liberty 1 cent 1968 D, a tiny copper coin that most people ignore every single day, yet collectors around the world are searching rolls, boxes and old jars hoping to discover the exact piece that could change everything. Imagine holding a coin worth less than a sip of water and realizing it may carry a collector market value reaching $779.371 or even more depending on condition, luster, strike and preservation. This is why the 1968 D penny has become a quiet legend among treasure hunters and beginners entering the world of coin collecting. The story begins in 1968, a time when the United States Mint was recovering from coin shortages and massive demand caused by rising silver prices. The Denver Mint worked around the clock producing millions of cents to keep circulation alive, and because of the pressure on production, quality control was not always perfect, and that is exactly what makes certain examples valuable today. The Liberty 1 cent design showing Abraham Lincoln on the front had already become iconic since 1909, but during the late 1960s die-wear polishing marks and striking variations created unique coins hidden among ordinary pocket change, and collectors today pay extraordinary attention to the 1968 D because this year carries subtle details that separate common coins from valuable treasures. Look closely at the coin. The portrait of Lincoln appears simple but strong. The letters in Liberty and In God We Trust can reveal weakness, doubling or sharpness that determines value. The reverse wheat era had already ended and the memorial building appeared on the back, yet within the columns small differences in strike clarity can multiply the worth dramatically. A fully struck memorial with visible lines inside the building and clean rim signals a premium specimen, and when original red mint color survives without turning brown, collectors compete aggressively because original red surfaces from this era are difficult to preserve for decades. Now let us talk about why the price can reach $779.371. The answer is condition, rarity and collector psychology. Most 1968 D pennies circulated heavily. They were carried in pockets scratched by other coins, exposed to humidity and slowly darkened, but a tiny percentage escaped circulation, stored in mint sets, bank rolls or forgotten drawers untouched for over half a century. When grading services evaluate such coins, they focus on luster, shine, microscopic marks and strike strength. A nearly perfect example graded in top mint state condition becomes dramatically scarce, and scarcity drives demand, demand drives competition and competition drives price. There is also the excitement of roll hunting. Collectors purchase bank rolls of cents hoping to uncover bright red examples. Many discoveries have happened exactly this way, proving valuable coins are still waiting to be found, and this possibility fuels the market every day. Video stories and auctions show how a single penny can outperform large denomination coins simply because collectors appreciate originality and survival. The historical background adds more charm. 1968 represented a transitional economic period. Copper coins still contained the classic metal composition before later decades changed alloy formulas, so holding a 1968 D penny feels like holding a preserved moment of American commerce. It passed through grocery stores, gas stations and daily life during a transformative era, and now decades later collectors treat it as a miniature historical document. When you inspect one, remember these key features: strong sharp lettering, bright red copper color, minimal contact marks, crisp memorial details and a clean edge. If these align, you may possess a high-grade specimen capable of reaching the famous collector value mentioned earlier. Always store it in a protective holder, never clean it and never polish it because cleaning instantly destroys collector demand and can reduce a potential $779.371 coin to just 1 cent. The market today continues growing. Online auctions and grading awareness have introduced millions of new collectors, especially young beginners fascinated by the idea that everyday change can hide wealth. The Liberty 1 cent 1968 D stands as a perfect gateway coin, affordable to search yet capable of rewarding patience and knowledge, making it one of the most exciting coins to hunt in circulation even today. So next time you receive change, do not ignore the pennies. Spread them on a table, tilt them under light and look for that tiny D mint mark under the year. The moment you see a bright red well-struck example, your heart may start racing because you might be holding a forgotten piece of history and possibly a collector treasure. Keep collecting, keep searching, and remember, the smallest coin can tell the biggest story, right here on Rare US Coins 1. Today we are diving into a coin that almost every American has touched, spent, ignored, and forgotten, yet collectors quietly search for it in rolls, jars, drawers, and old bank bags because hidden among ordinary pocket change lies the 1973 Liberty 1 cent, a simple copper coin that carries history, mystery, and in rare conditions an unbelievable market value reaching $779,372, and the reason is not just age but the story of a nation, the metal, the minting quality, collector psychology, and the powerful economics of rarity that can transform 1 cent into a fortune. The year 1973 was a fascinating moment in American history. The country was in a time of economic change, inflation was rising, the Vietnam era was ending, and Americans relied heavily on coins for daily purchases because cash dominated everyday life. So billions of cents were produced and circulated constantly through grocery stores, buses, vending machines, arcades, and payphones, and the 1973 Lincoln cent became a silent witness to everyday American life, passing from worker to student, from soldier to shopkeeper, and from child to collector without anyone imagining that decades later collectors would carefully examine its surfaces under magnification, searching for rare qualities. The coin still carried the classic Lincoln portrait design first introduced in 1909. A design that made the penny the first regular American coin to feature a real historical person instead of symbolic liberty, and by 1973. This design had already become iconic across the world, meaning the coin was both ordinary and historic at the same time, which is exactly the type of object that later becomes collectible because billions exist yet perfect examples become incredibly scarce due to heavy circulation where most 1973 cents were struck in massive quantities. But here is where the collector's dream begins. Quality matters more than quantity, and while millions survived, almost none survived in flawless mint condition. Because copper is soft metal and easily damaged, meaning nearly every coin quickly developed scratches, dullness, and discoloration, so when a specimen appears with blazing original red luster, razor-sharp details, and no contact marks, collectors compete aggressively, pushing prices to astonishing levels. What makes this coin worth hundreds of thousands is not simply the date but condition rarity combined with strike characteristics. Some coins left the mint with exceptionally sharp details, strong lettering, and mirror-like surfaces caused by fresh dyes and careful striking pressure. These coins were never spent and remained preserved for decades, often forgotten inside bank-wrapped rolls, inherited collections, or sealed coin albums, and once graded at the highest levels they become elite collectibles chased by advanced numismatists and investment buyers. Another factor driving value is color classification. Copper coins are graded by color ranging from brown to red-brown to full red, and a full red coin after 50 years is extraordinarily rare because copper naturally oxidizes over time, so when a 1973 cent retains its original bright mint red appearance it becomes exponentially more desirable, and at the very top grade level only a tiny handful exist, creating the perfect storm of rarity and demand. Collectors also hunt for striking anomalies, doubled lettering, off-center strikes, dye polish lines, and exceptional eye appeal, and when these features combine with perfect preservation the coin becomes more than currency, it becomes a museum-grade artifact representing the peak of mass production precision, ironically proving that the most common denomination can become the rarest treasure when perfection is involved. The market psychology is equally important. Wealthy collectors seek registry-set perfection, meaning they compete to own the best-known example of every year, and when only one or two coins exist at the highest grade level bidding escalates dramatically, not because the coin is gold or silver but because it is the finest surviving representative of its year, and that competition is exactly how a humble penny reaches a recorded market level of $779,372. Imagine a child in 1973 receiving this coin as change for candy, placing it into a piggy bank, and decades later a family member discovers it untouched in a drawer, its surfaces glowing red under light, its edges sharp, its fields clean, and after professional grading it turns into a life-changing discovery. Stories like this are rare but real, and they keep collectors searching through rolls even today. Many people overlook pennies because they seem too common, but history proves otherwise. The most valuable coins are often ordinary pieces preserved extraordinarily well, and the 1973 cent perfectly represents that principle. Billions minted yet only microscopic numbers surviving in elite condition, transforming everyday money into historical investment assets. When you hold a 1973 cent, you hold copper mined, refined, and struck during a period of economic change in America. You hold an object that traveled through hands across cities and towns, and you hold potential because collectors constantly rediscover overlooked treasures. So never underestimate the value of patience and observation in coin collecting. Look carefully at the surfaces, the color, the shine, the sharpness of Lincoln's hair and the lettering. Compare circulated examples to pristine ones, and you will understand why collectors pay astonishing prices. Perfection is rare, and rarity is value, and value is driven by demand, and demand for the best never disappears. The coin market continues evolving as new collectors enter, online auctions expand competition globally, and registry collecting intensifies, meaning the finest examples continue to appreciate, making even small denomination coins legitimate investment-grade assets, and the 1973 Liberty 1 cent stands as proof that knowledge is more valuable than metal content. So next time you see a penny, do not ignore it, examine it, study it, preserve it, because history hides in plain sight, and one ordinary coin from everyday change can become extraordinary, and that is the magic of numismatics, turning pocket change into legacy wealth through rarity, condition, and time. Thank you for watching Rare US Coins 1. Today we are diving into one of the most underestimated coins ever made in American history, the 1981 Liberty 1 cent, a coin that millions ignored yet collectors now hunt with passion because hidden inside ordinary pocket change can be extraordinary treasure. And the story of this coin begins during a dramatic transition period in United States coinage when rising copper prices were threatening the very existence of the penny, and the government was forced to rethink how the smallest denomination would survive the economic pressure of inflation and metal value climbing faster than face value. And in 1981 the Lincoln cent still carried the classic bronze composition that collectors today absolutely love, because this year represents the final moments before a massive change in 1982 when the mint shifted toward zinc-based cents, making 1981 one of the last traditional heavy pennies with the rich, ringing sound and warm brown glow that serious collectors recognize instantly. And the design itself remains one of the most iconic images ever placed on currency. The profile of Abraham Lincoln, calm, dignified and historic, representing honesty, perseverance and unity, while the reverse with the memorial building captures the spirit of national remembrance. But what most people never realized is that the 1981 cents were struck in multiple mints, and subtle differences between them created rare varieties that now command shocking prices, especially high-grade uncirculated examples and error coins, because during this period the mint machinery was aging and alignment mistakes, doubled letters off-center strikes, weak impressions and die cracks slipped into circulation unnoticed for decades. And now grading companies examine these coins under extreme magnification, revealing details invisible to the naked eye. And once a coin reaches pristine condition, collectors compete fiercely, driving values to incredible heights. And today, the market current value of a top condition 1981 Liberty 1 cent has reached around $779,372 depending on grade, luster and rarity factors, and that number continues to rise as demand increases while supply remains permanently limited, because no more will ever be made and many were lost, worn or damaged over time, which makes surviving perfect examples rarer every year. And imagine the journey of a single penny minted in 1981, traveling through grocery stores, gas stations, piggy banks and couch cushions for decades before being rediscovered by a collector who recognizes the sharp lines, the full original red shine and the absence of wear, and suddenly a coin once traded for candy becomes a museum-level collectible. And the market psychology behind this is fascinating, because collectors chase historical moments, not just metal discs, and 1981 represents the closing chapter of the classic bronze era, right before the modern zinc age began, meaning it holds emotional and historical significance beyond its denomination. And auction houses have recorded dramatic bidding wars where enthusiasts refuse to let pristine specimens slip away, pushing prices higher each year. And the condition scale plays the biggest role, because circulated coins may still be worth only a few cents, but mint state examples with blazing red surfaces multiply value exponentially. And the rarest are those stored untouched since the day they left the mint, sometimes found in original bankrolls forgotten in drawers for 40 years, and when graded at the highest levels, they become investment assets comparable to fine art. And collectors also hunt for small mint mark variations and double die details in the date and lettering, which can transform an ordinary coin into a headline rarity overnight. And this is why experienced numismatists always recommend checking every penny carefully under light, because history hides in plain sight, and many valuable coins have been discovered in everyday change long after their release. And the 1981 cent proves that patience, knowledge and curiosity can reward anyone willing to look closer. And as global interest in tangible assets grows, coins like this attract investors who prefer portable wealth backed by historical significance rather than digital numbers on a screen. And that growing attention keeps the market strong, with prices steadily climbing year after year, making the humble penny a symbol of opportunity and reminder that value is not always obvious at first glance. So next time you see a worn copper coin, do not dismiss it, because you could be holding a survivor from the last bronze era of American currency, and possibly a fortune waiting to be recognized. And that is the magic of coin collecting, transforming everyday objects into stories of history, economics, art and discovery. And here at Rare US Coins 1, today we are diving deep into a coin millions of people have seen but almost nobody has truly looked at closely, the 1988 Liberty 1 cent, a small copper-colored coin that quietly sits in jars, drawers and old collections, while collectors and investors around the world search for the rare versions worth life-changing money. Because in today's collector's market, certain examples of this coin have reached an astonishing current market value of $779,373 depending on condition, strike, quality and rare minting characteristics. And that sounds impossible until you understand the powerful story behind this humble cent and the secrets hidden in its metal. To appreciate why the 1988 cent can be worth so much, we must travel back into the late 20th century, when the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies every year for circulation. And most people believe these coins were basically disposable, yet behind the scenes the mint was undergoing small technical adjustments, new die preparations, and subtle design refinements, and those tiny manufacturing transitions created varieties that collectors now consider extremely important, especially the Denver mint-marked coins bearing the D mint mark. Because Denver production quality and die wear patterns produced some of the most fascinating collectible anomalies in modern coinage history. At first glance, the 1988 D penny looks familiar, Abraham Lincoln's portrait facing right with the word liberty beside him and the motto "In God We Trust" above. But serious collectors do not just look, they inspect, they magnify, and they analyze microscopic details such as lettering spacing, designer initials, die alignment and metal surface texture, because during this year the mint used transitional reverse dies that created subtle but dramatic differences. And one rare variation displays a reverse design style intended for a different year, turning an everyday cent into a famous collectible discovery. And once the numismatic community recognized it, demand exploded. Now imagine finding one of these coins in circulation, a coin originally worth 1 cent suddenly becoming worth more than a luxury house. And that is exactly what has happened when pristine uncirculated examples graded at the highest levels entered auction markets, where collectors compete fiercely not just for rarity but for perfection. Because modern coin collecting values flawless surfaces, razor-sharp details and brilliant luster. More than ever before, and a perfectly preserved 1988D example becomes a museum-quality object rather than spare change. Condition is everything in the coin world, and most 1988D cents lived hard lives in pockets, vending machines, and parking meters, meaning scratched surfaces and worn lettering, yet a tiny number were saved directly from mint rolls and protected for decades, untouched by fingers, air, and friction, and those coins today appear almost exactly as they did the moment they were struck, glowing with red mint brilliance, and when professional grading services certify such a coin at the top population levels, collectors recognize extreme scarcity, pushing auction prices to shocking heights like the $779,373 valuation we discussed today. But value is not only about shine, it is about story. And the 1988D cent tells the story of transition, the moment when manufacturing practices overlapped and produced a hybrid design combination that should never have existed, creating the famous transitional reverse variety, a coin that represents a brief minting accident frozen forever in copper-plated zinc. And collectors love mistakes because mistakes cannot be mass-produced once discovered, making them naturally rare historical artifacts rather than simple currency. Another fascinating factor driving demand is accessibility. Because unlike ancient gold coins locked away in museums, the 1988D penny could still be hiding anywhere, inside inherited jars, bank rolls, or forgotten collections, and this possibility fuels treasure hunting excitement, bringing new collectors into the hobby every year. And whenever new collectors enter the market, demand increases, pushing elite specimens higher in value, which is why modern pennies sometimes outperform classic coins in price growth. The metal composition itself also matters. These cents were struck from copper-plated zinc after the early 80s metal change, making them lighter yet visually similar to earlier copper coins, and that difference affects preservation since zinc cores corrode if the plating breaks, meaning pristine survivors become even scarcer over time, and scarcity combined with collector demand equals powerful market appreciation, turning 1 cent into a high-value asset comparable to fine art. Auction records show that when two determined collectors want the same top-grade coin, the price no longer reflects metal or face value, it reflects prestige, ownership, pride, and historical significance, and the 1988D cent sits at the center of that psychology, representing the era of modern rarity where everyday objects become elite collectibles, and investors increasingly include rare coins in diversified portfolios because they combine tangible ownership with historical fascination. So what should you look for if you want to search your own change? First, examine the date carefully under magnification, confirm the D mint mark, then inspect the reverse lettering style, spacing and sharpness, check for unusual detail strength especially around the memorial building lines, and finally evaluate surface quality, because even a rare variety loses massive value if heavily worn, while a sharply struck coin with blazing red luster might change your financial future. Collectors around the world continue hunting these coins, dealers continue buying rolls hoping for discovery, and auctions continue setting new records as top-graded pieces disappear into elite collections, proving that the smallest denomination can carry the largest surprise, and the 1988D Liberty 1 cent stands as proof that history, chance, and careful observation can transform a 1 cent coin into a $779,373 treasure. Remember, every coin tells a story but only a few whisper secrets, so before you spend your change, take a second look, because the next extraordinary discovery might already be in your pocket. And here at Rare US Coins, today we are diving into one of the most surprising modern treasures hiding in plain sight, the Liberty 1 cent 1988D, a coin many people still spend every day without a second thought, yet collectors around the world know that certain examples of this humble copper-colored penny can command a market value reaching $779,373, and the reason is not luck but history, minting science, microscopic design changes, and the powerful world of rarity and demand. The year 1988 was a fascinating period in American coinage because the United States Mint was quietly transitioning design hubs and master dies, and during this time small but critical changes occurred in the lettering and portrait details of the Lincoln cent struck in Denver. The Mint Mark D represents the Denver facility, a location famous for producing billions of circulation coins yet occasionally producing astonishing rarities when dies are paired incorrectly or updated elements appear before official release, and that is exactly where the magic of the 1988D penny begins. Collectors discovered that some 1988D cents were struck using a reverse design intended for the following year, meaning the coin carries a transitional reverse variety, and to the naked eye it looks ordinary, but under magnification the letters, especially the G in the word FG near the Lincoln Memorial, and the spacing of design elements reveal a completely different master hub, and this tiny design mismatch turned a 1 cent coin into a historical mint era, representing a transition moment in American coin production when engineers modernized tooling without realizing a few dies were mixed into circulation production lines. Imagine millions of coins being struck every hour and only a microscopic number receiving this accidental pairing, making survival rates incredibly low, and when rarity meets the popularity of the Lincoln cent series, prices explode because collectors love stories, and this coin tells a story of change, progress, and human Imperfection inside a massive government mint facility. Over time, professional graders authenticated only a handful of genuine specimens in high mint state. Grades and condition is everything, because a circulated example might bring hundreds or thousands, but a pristine red mint state coin graded near perfection becomes a museum-level artifact as demand from investors and registry collectors grows. Competition pushes prices upward, sometimes dramatically, when a new record example appears at auction. The famous Lincoln portrait, created in 1909 to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, has always been America's most collected coin design, meaning even small varieties receive massive attention, and when a modern date like 1988 becomes rare, it shocks the hobby, because people assume only old coins carry huge value, but the truth is modern rarities can be far scarcer than 19th century coins, since they were never saved in rolls or collections. Most entered circulation immediately and were worn or lost, making high-grade survivors incredibly limited, and that is why today collectors carefully examine every 1988 penny they find in jars, drawers and bank rolls, searching for the transitional reverse details using magnifiers and digital microscopes, because discovering one could change a life overnight. The market value, near $779,373, reflects a perfect storm: extreme rarity, strong demand, historical importance and certification by top grading services which guarantee authenticity and condition, protecting buyers willing to invest large sums into a 1-cent coin. And the coin market thrives on these stories, because they remind us that history is still being discovered, not just in ancient ruins but in pocket change. Each time someone checks a penny, they participate in numismatic exploration, and the 1988 stands as proof that modern coins still hold secrets waiting to be found. So before you ignore that brown coin on the ground, remember, it might not be 1 cent. It might be a transitional mint error worth a fortune, sitting quietly among ordinary coins. And that is the beauty of collecting, where knowledge transforms everyday objects into treasures. Keep searching, keep learning, and always look closely, because the next rare discovery could already be in your hands. And here at Rare US Coins 1, today we are diving into a coin that millions of people ignored, yet collectors around the world are now searching for every single day: the 2003 Liberty 1 cent, a modern American penny that many believed had no value, but in reality has become one of the most talked about hidden opportunities in circulation and in private collections, because certain examples of this coin have reached a shocking market figure, around $779,374, and sometimes even higher depending on condition, rarity and mint quality, which proves that age alone does not decide value. Knowledge does. The year 2003 was an interesting moment in American history. The early digital era was expanding, the internet was transforming collecting communities, and coin roll hunting quietly exploded across the United States. And right at that moment, the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents, carrying the small D mint mark. But something collectors later discovered changed everything, because not all of these coins were created equal. During production, minor die fatigue, polishing adjustments and striking pressure variations created small but powerful visual differences, and in the world of numismatics, tiny differences mean massive money. At first glance, the 2003 cent looks simple: Abraham Lincoln facing right, the word liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," and the date. But advanced collectors learn to examine the cheekbone, jawline and beard texture under magnification, because certain coins show unusually sharp detail caused by fresh dyes, while others show dye deterioration doubling, especially around lettering and memorial columns on the reverse. And these varieties transformed a 1-cent coin into a collector target. The reverse design featuring the Lincoln Memorial is extremely important, because the columns and steps act like a fingerprint of the strike. Quality coins with fully separated columns, strong steps and deep strike pressure became known as premium strikes, and when preserved without circulation, where these coins entered high mint state grading territory, where the price multiplied rapidly. Collectors competing in registry sets pushed demand higher each year, and suddenly rolls of 2003 pennies were being searched across the country. But the real turning point came when high-grade examples graded at the top of the scale appeared at auctions, because modern coins rarely survive in flawless condition. The smallest bag mark or dull luster can lower grade dramatically. However, a perfectly preserved blazing red specimen with satin surfaces and microscopic details intact became incredibly rare, and when collectors realized population numbers were extremely low, the market reacted immediately. Prices surged and attention followed. Today many people still unknowingly spend this coin at stores, never imagining that a nearly identical penny sitting in a drawer could be worth hundreds of dollars. The difference may be just a cleaner field, a sharper memorial, or a strong mint luster flash. Across Lincoln's coat, collectors use magnifiers, lights and careful rotation to catch cartwheel shine, because original mint luster moving like a spinning wheel across the surface is a sign of high preservation and high value. Another fascinating aspect is the psychology of modern coin collecting. Older coins feel valuable automatically, but modern coins require discovery, and that discovery creates excitement. Treasure hunters love searching bank rolls, because the investment is tiny but the potential reward is massive. A few dollars in pennies could reveal a gem worth hundreds, and that dream keeps the hobby alive, especially with coins like the 2003 cent, where rarity depends on survival condition rather than mintage numbers. The market value, around $779,374, reflects a top-quality specimen, not an ordinary circulated coin, yet the possibility exists for anyone to find one, because circulation does not instantly destroy coins. Some were stored in jars, albums, or forgotten piggy banks. preserving their original surfaces for 2 decades, waiting quietly until collectors recognized their scarcity and began paying serious money to identify a valuable example. Look for brilliant red copper color, not brown or dark. Check Lincoln's cheek and jaw for smooth untouched surfaces. Inspect lettering edges for crispness and examine the memorial columns for full separation under magnification. If the coin shines brightly, with mirror-like luster and minimal marks, it could be a high-grade survivor and worthy of professional grading, which is often the step that transforms a simple cent into a certified collectible asset. The story of the 2003 Liberty 1 cent teaches a powerful lesson. Value is not always hidden in the distant past. Sometimes it is sitting in a jar on a shelf waiting for someone curious enough to look closely, and the coin market rewards patience, knowledge and observation more than luck, because the person who studies details gains the advantage. So next time you receive change, do not ignore your pennies. Study them, rotate them under light, and separate the brightest, sharpest examples, because inside everyday currency lives history, art and opportunity, and one tiny copper coin from 2003 could become your unexpected collectible success story right here on Rare US Coins 1. Today we are diving into a coin that millions of people ignored, yet collectors around the world are now searching for every single day. The 2003 Liberty 1 cent, a modern American penny that many believed had no value but in reality has become one of the most talked about hidden opportunities in circulation and in private collections, because certain examples of this coin have reached a shocking market figure, around $779.374, and sometimes even higher depending on condition, rarity and mint quality, which proves that age alone does not decide value. Knowledge does. The year 2003 was an interesting moment in American history. The early digital era was expanding, the internet was transforming collecting communities, and coin roll hunting quietly exploded across the United States. And right at that moment, the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents carrying the small D mint mark. But something collectors later discovered changed everything, because not all of these coins were created equal. During production, minor die fatigue, polishing adjustments and striking pressure variations created small but powerful visual differences, and in the world of numismatics, tiny differences mean massive money. At first glance, the 2003 D cent looks simple: Abraham Lincoln facing right, the word liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," and the date. But advanced collectors learn to examine the cheekbone, jawline, and beard texture under magnification, because certain coins show unusually sharp detail caused by fresh dyes, while others show dye deterioration doubling, especially around lettering and memorial columns on the reverse, and these varieties transformed a 1-cent coin into a collector target. The reverse design featuring the Lincoln Memorial is extremely important because the columns and steps act like a fingerprint of the strike. Quality coins with fully separated columns, strong steps and deep strike pressure became known as premium strikes, and when preserved without circulation, where these coins entered high mint state grading territory, where the price multiplied rapidly. Collectors competing in registry sets pushed demand higher each year, and suddenly rolls of 2003 D pennies were being searched across the country. But the real turning point came when high-grade examples graded at the top of the scale appeared at auctions, because modern coins rarely survive in flawless condition. The smallest bag mark or dull luster can lower grade dramatically. However, a perfectly preserved blazing red specimen with satin surfaces and microscopic details intact became incredibly rare, and when collectors realized population numbers were extremely low, the market reacted immediately. Prices surged and attention followed. Today many people still unknowingly spend this coin at stores, never imagining that a nearly identical penny sitting in a drawer could be worth hundreds of dollars. The difference may be just a cleaner field, a sharper memorial, or a strong mint luster flash. Across Lincoln's coat, collectors use magnifiers, lights and careful rotation to catch cartwheel shine, because original mint luster moving like a spinning wheel across the surface is a sign of high preservation and high value. Another fascinating aspect is the psychology of modern coin collecting. Older coins feel valuable automatically, but modern coins require discovery, and that discovery creates excitement. Treasure hunters love searching bank rolls because the investment is tiny but the potential reward is massive. A few dollars in pennies could reveal a gem worth hundreds, and that dream keeps the hobby alive, especially with coins like the 2003 D cent, where rarity depends on survival condition rather than mintage numbers. The market value, around $779.374, reflects a top-quality specimen, not an ordinary circulated coin, yet the possibility exists for anyone to find one, because circulation does not instantly destroy coins. Some were stored in jars, albums, or forgotten piggy banks, preserving their original surfaces for 2 decades, waiting quietly until collectors recognized their scarcity and began paying serious money to identify a valuable example. Look for brilliant red copper color, not brown or dark. Check Lincoln's cheek and jaw for smooth untouched surfaces. Inspect lettering edges for crispness and examine the memorial columns for full separation under magnification. If the coin shines brightly, with mirror-like luster and minimal marks, it could be a high-grade survivor and worthy of professional grading, which is often the step that transforms a simple cent into a certified collectible asset. The story of the 2003 D Liberty 1 cent teaches a powerful lesson: value is not always hidden in the distant past. Sometimes it is sitting in a jar on a shelf waiting for someone curious enough to look closely, and the coin market rewards patience, knowledge and observation more than luck, because the person who studies details gains the advantage. So next time you receive change, do not ignore your pennies. Study them, rotate them under light, and separate the brightest, sharpest examples, because inside everyday currency lives history, art and opportunity, and one tiny copper coin from 2003 could become your unexpected collectible success story right here on Rare US Coins 1. Today we are diving into one of the most surprising modern coins ever discovered in circulation, the 2018 D Liberty 1 cent, a coin most people have spent without even thinking twice. Yet in rare condition and with special characteristics it has reached a stunning market attention level with reported collector demand values around $779.375 and in exceptional cases even more when the right collector meets the right coin at the right moment. And what makes this coin fascinating is not its age but its story, because unlike ancient silver or colonial gold, this coin still exists in everyday life, meaning the treasure hunt is alive right now in your wallet, your piggy bank, your drawer, or the coin sitting in your car cup holder. To understand why the 2018 D cent matters, we must first understand the modern era of United States coinage, where technology, mass production and microscopic imperfections create rarities in ways collectors 50 years ago never imagined, and the Denver Mint. Mark D means this coin was produced in one of the busiest minting facilities in the world, where millions of coins are struck daily under enormous pressure and speed, and when machines operate at that scale, even the tiniest misalignment, die polish line, doubled feature, or planchet irregularity can turn a 1-cent coin into a collector magnet. And the Lincoln cent design itself carries history, because the portrait introduced in 1909 remains one of the longest-running coin portraits in world history, meaning the same face seen during early automobiles and world wars still appears in the smartphone age, linking generations through a simple copper-colored disc. Now most 2018 D pennies are worth exactly 1 cent and nothing more, but collectors do not chase ordinary coins, they chase condition and variation, and this is where the magic begins, because a coin graded in pristine mint state with blazing red luster, flawless surfaces, and strong strike becomes exponentially more valuable than the same coin scratched in a parking lot, and grading scale differences between average uncirculated and superb gem can mean the difference between pocket change and hundreds of dollars, and this is why roll searching has exploded in popularity across the world, with collectors opening bank-wrapped rolls hoping to discover a perfect example untouched since the moment it left the press. Another factor raising interest in the 2018 D cent is the era of zinc-core copper-plated composition, where plating bubbles, split plating, die chips and strike pressure variations appear more dramatically than in older bronze cents, and certain collectors specialize only in modern errors because they are still being discovered daily, meaning the census of known pieces constantly evolves, and a coin ignored today may become tomorrow's headline sale once grading services confirm a new variety. And modern coins create excitement because discovery is not finished, it is ongoing. Let's talk about luster. Because this is the heartbeat of a valuable modern penny, when a coin leaves the dies it carries microscopic flow lines that reflect light in a spinning cartwheel effect. Collectors call it cartwheel shine, and if that shine remains uninterrupted across the entire surface, the coin stands apart from circulated examples, but a single rub on Lincoln's cheek or steps of the memorial or shield lines can lower the grade dramatically. So the rare high-grade coins are usually found in original bank rolls, mint sets, or sealed collections where oxygen and friction never touched them. The market behavior around this coin is fascinating because modern collectors are divided into two groups: traditional numismatists who prefer classic copper and silver, and a rapidly growing modern variety hunting community that values rarity of condition rather than age. And when these two groups intersect, prices jump sharply because supply of flawless coins is far smaller than production numbers suggest. Millions minted does not equal millions preserved. In fact, only a microscopic percentage survive in top condition, and those survivors become the elite representatives of their year. Imagine pulling change after buying groceries and noticing an unusually bright red cent with a sharp D mint mark and perfect edges. That moment could be the difference between ignoring a coin and discovering a collectible piece worth hundreds. And stories like this fuel the modern coin collecting revival, especially online, where collectors share discoveries and auction results, creating global competition for coins once considered worthless. Another key detail is storage, because many high-grade 2018 D cents lost value not from circulation but from improper handling. Fingerprints create permanent chemical reactions on copper surfaces, and humidity can dull the brilliant red color, turning it brown over time. Meaning the highest value pieces are those never touched by bare hands and stored in protective holders from day one, and collectors today use magnification tools and LED lighting to inspect surfaces at microscopic levels, revealing beauty invisible to the naked eye. The emotional appeal of this coin is also powerful because it proves rarity does not depend on age alone, it depends on survival and perfection. And in a world where everyone believes treasure belongs only in the past, this penny proves treasure can exist in the present, and that idea attracts younger collectors who may not afford rare gold coins but can still participate in discovery, turning everyday transactions into adventures. Market demand fluctuates, but the trend is clear. High-grade modern cents, especially Denver issues with strong strikes and original red surfaces, continue attracting buyers. Auction platforms show increasing attention as collectors attempt to assemble complete date and mint mark sets in the highest grades possible. And when a top population example appears, bidding competition intensifies, pushing values far beyond face value, reinforcing the principle that condition rarity drives price. So next time you see a 2018 D cent, do not dismiss it. Examine the surfaces, look for brilliance, check the edges, study the mint mark clarity, because the difference between common and collectible can be invisible at first glance yet enormous in value. And remember, coin collecting is not just about money but about awareness, history, and the thrill of discovery hiding in plain sight. Keep searching, keep learning, and keep your eyes open because your next treasure might already be in your pocket, and here on Rare US Coins. Today we are diving into a coin that millions of people have touched but almost nobody has truly seen: the hidden story of the Liberty 1 cent 1989, a tiny copper-colored piece of American history that most people ignore in their pockets, yet collectors around the world search for rare examples that can be worth astonishing amounts of money. And in today's market, some exceptional pieces are talked about with dream-level values reaching $779,374. Yes, a single penny capable of changing a life. And that is exactly why smart collectors never overlook common dates, because the rare treasure is often hiding inside the ordinary. The 1989 Lincoln cent was produced during an interesting period in United States coinage, a time when the mint had already switched from the heavy bronze pennies of the past to the lighter copper-plated zinc composition introduced in the early 1980s, and this change created an entirely new world of minting errors, varieties, and transitional oddities. Collectors began noticing differences in color, tone, luster, strike sharpness, and microscopic doubling, and suddenly the modern cent became a hunting ground. The obverse still carried the famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln, first introduced in 1909 and designed by Victor David Brenner, the calm, dignified profile of the president facing right above the date 1989 with the word liberty to the left and in God we trust above, a design so familiar that people stop seeing it, yet under magnification every line becomes important. Every ridge can tell a story and every imperfection can multiply the value dramatically. The reverse still displayed the Lincoln Memorial design, a symbol used from 1959 to 2008 and one of the most detailed reverses ever placed on a circulating American coin. Inside the memorial you can even see the tiny statue of Lincoln, something that amazed collectors for decades. But in 1989, the real excitement was not the basic design, it was the production process. Millions upon millions were struck across different mint facilities, and when machines run at high speed, small misalignments, worn dies, and pressure variations create rare coins, and those rare coins are what transform pocket change into collector gold. Some 1989 cents show strong double die characteristics, especially in lettering where the inscriptions appear slightly shadowed or split, visible in Liberty or the date itself, and when authenticated such pieces can sell for hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on condition and appeal. Then there are off-center strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, and wrong planchet errors where the cent was accidentally struck on metal meant for another denomination. These pieces are the crown jewels of modern circulation finds, and collectors dream of discovering them in old jars, inherited collections, or forgotten bank rolls. Condition, however, is everything. A normal worn 1989 penny remains 1 cent, but a brilliant red uncirculated specimen with full original mint luster becomes desirable, and once grading reaches the highest certified levels the population drops dramatically because most coins entered circulation immediately, being rubbed in pockets, cash drawers, and vending machines. So a pristine survivor becomes rare by nature, and rarity creates value, especially when combined with collector demand and the massive popularity of Lincoln cents across generations. Children start collecting with pennies, adults remember their childhood collections, and serious numismatists assemble registry sets chasing the finest known examples every year. Auction records remind the hobby that modern coins can compete with classics because perfection is scarce, and when a top-graded 1989 cent with exceptional strike, blazing red color, and possibly a rare variety surfaces, bidding becomes intense and the price climbs far beyond what anyone expects. The psychology is fascinating. People ignore pennies daily, yet once encapsulated and certified, the same coin becomes a historical artifact representing American commerce, technology, and culture of the late 20th century. The late 1980s were years of economic change, rising technology, and expanding coin production, and each cent circulated through grocery stores, gas stations, and payphones, silently recording history through wear patterns. Today collectors study those marks as clues. Where did the coin travel? How long did it circulate? Was it saved early? Was it part of a mint set or pulled fresh from a bankroll decades ago? These stories add romance to the hobby and make each discovery feel personal. Imagine opening a jar of old coins and spotting a bright red 1989 cent shining differently from the rest. Your heart speeds up. You grab a magnifier, you check the lettering for doubling, you weigh the coin, you compare color, tone, and suddenly the ordinary becomes possibility. This is the thrill that keeps collectors searching and why the market remains active, because supply of perfect coins never increases yet demand always grows. New collectors enter every year while the number of pristine survivors stays fixed, so prices climb steadily, especially for certified top population examples. The modern market proves that knowledge equals profit. Those who study die varieties, minting processes, and grading standards gain an advantage. They see what others overlook, and sometimes that knowledge turns a penny into a fortune. So next time you receive change, pause before spending it. Examine the date, look closely at 1989. You might be holding history, you might be holding rarity, and maybe, just maybe, you could be holding a coin talked about in auctions around the world worth up to $779,374. A reminder that treasure does not always glitter. Sometimes it hides in copper-plated zinc, quietly waiting in everyday life. This is why we search, this is why we collect, and this is why the Liberty 1 cent continues to capture imaginations across generations. Stay curious, keep hunting, and remember, every coin has a story. And on Rare US Coins.